Hello and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. In this video we're going to keep looking at the Worldwake decks and we're going to move on and look at Fangs of the Bloodchief, which is a mono-black deck. So let's start looking at that one. So you know how in Zendikar we had a mono-black vampire deck? Yeah, it's kind of the same again, which is fine. Mono-black vampires are good, but it does feel very samey. But well, let's take a look and see how it might be a little bit different. So, one of the rares in the deck, and for some insane reason, not the foil face rare, is Anawan, the Ruin Sage. So 3 and 2 black for a 4/3. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player sacrifices a non-vampire creature. So that's pretty good as a rare to have in the deck. I remember when this came out, a friend of mine had a black vampire deck which he'd been working on for like years, endlessly tweaking it, and he's just like, "Oh, this is perfect card," and oh, we were all dreading it because he just went out and got a play set of them. But anyway, Anawan is a super good card. Absolutely should have been the foil face rare though. But yeah, really good effect, and okay costed as well for his size. But yeah, mostly it's that effect just to keep making people sacrifice creatures. So yeah. Good start. So the other rare is Butcher of Malakir. So 5 and 2 black for a 5/4 with flyer. So I keep forgetting how like beefy this this thing is. Like just a 5/4 flyer on its own is like enough. It's a late game threat anyway. But it has like the Grave Pact effect. Whenever Butcher of Malakir or another creature you control dies, every opponent sacrifices a creature. So you have this out, and you have Anawan out. Just you are just really ripping through creatures, clearing the board quite a lot because man, it's really strong. I do feel this is almost like too expensive, for this effect to matter because I feel like Grave Pact is perfectly costed at being 4 mana. It comes at the midpoint of a game and then it is around long enough to actually do stuff. This I feel might be too late to matter maybe, but I say it's still a big flying creature, so even if its effect never goes off, it being a big flyer is perfectly fine. We have a single Bloodhusk Ritualist, so 2 and a black for a 2/2. It has multi-kicker, which is exactly like kicker, except you can pay the kicker cost any number of times you want. When it enters the battlefield, an opponent discards a card every time it was kicked. So, at 4 mana, this is a 2/2 that makes someone discard 1, which is okay. I mean, then that's I was going to say that's double Ravenous Rats, but it's not because it's only making someone discard 1. I suppose it's okay. It's going to run into the problem I always have with like expensive late game discard spells, because like you say, like, oh, I could put a bunch of mana into this and make them discard your whole hand, but like you're going to need that late game, and by late game they might have cast everything in their hands. They might be down to only like 2 or 3 cards. So late game, when you can afford to kick a lot, you might not need to. I don't know. I kind of wish this had been, I guess, like Ravenous Rat's size, like maybe like 2 mana for a 1/1, and then the kicker ability, maybe, I guess. I don't know. I'm not super hot on multi kicker. I just think most things that have it are kind of overcosted. I don't know. So 2 pulse trackers. So this is a new Worldwake vampire. So 1 black for a 1/1. Whenever it attacks, each opponent loses 1 life. Just really simple, really straightforward. Yeah, really good, and absolutely perfect in like big group games they used to play back in the day. Just to affect everyone. Then you don't have to play. You don't have to like play politics. You can, everyone gets affected equally. But yeah, I think pulse tracker is pretty good for a 1-drop. Especially at this time when like black creatures normally have like drawbacks or like horrible stats. Like this being a 1/1 for 1 with quite a good upside is pretty good actually. Yeah, the vampires in Zendikar were really good for the most part. 2 Ruthless Coalblades. So 1 cast and 1 black for a 2/1. Gets +2/+1 as long as an opponent has 10 or less life. So this is kind of like a repeat of the like the Bloodied ability that showed up on a few vampires in the previous set, like was it Guldraz Vampire and Vampire Lacerator, which it wasn't in the deck, but it was a what could have been. I think it's a fun effect. I mean, like, as at worst, this is a 2/1 for 2. with no drawback, which is fine in black, especially at the time. The fact it goes up to 4/2 with no real investment for doing something that you want to do anyway, which is reduce your opponent to 10 or less life. I think it's perfectly fine as a common. Single Vampire Nighthawk. Really happy this isn't here. I'd be really upset if the Vampire deck did not have a Nighthawk in it. This is a great card. 1 and 2 black for a 2/3 flying Death Touch lifelink. Super good. Really, there's not really much to say about it other than it's just very strong. And I am still constantly surprised it was not a rare at the time it was printed, because it feels like it should have been, but I'm very happy it wasn't. A single Jagwasp Swarm, so 3 and a black for a 3/2 fly. This is just black Snapping Drake, which is alright, I guess. I mean, it's, I guess it's a decently strong flyer. It's alright, I suppose. Yeah. 2 Child of Night, so I say this is where it's starting to look very similar to the Rise of the Vampires from the previous set. So we have 2 Child of Night, yep, 2/1 lifelink for 2, yes, perfectly good. Single Vampire Aristocrat, you can sacrifice creatures to get +2/+2, helps trigger Butcher of Malakir, I suppose. Again, perfectly fine. You've got to have Zombie Goliath again, apparently. Like, it's contractually obliged to have Zombie Goliath. I have no idea why it's in here. It shouldn't be in here, and it annoys me that it's in here, honestly. A single Feast of Blood, talked about this last vampire deck. I just think it's good. 2 mana, but you have to have 2 or more vampires, which is fine. You've got a lot of vampires. Destroys a creature with no restrictions, and you gain 4 life. Yeah, fine. Good removal spell. Urge to Feed was the new Vampire Matters removal spell, and it's pretty good in my opinion. So 2 black mana, instant speed, to give a creature -3/-3 turn. So that's like Last Gasp, Last Gasp was like perfectly fine. Obviously this is the double black though, but you're playing a mono black deck, it doesn't matter. And you can tap any number of untapped vampire creatures you control, and any vampire you tap gets a +1/+1 counter. So this is like really swingy. Like if you say like an opponent attacks, you do Urge to Feed. Say you block everything, and then you do Urge to Feed, kill off on the creatures, tap all your stuff, all your vampires getting +1/+1 counters. So not only have you potentially killed an opponent's creature, you're going to then hopefully trade up with the +1/+1 counters you've now put on all your vampires. So it's really, really strong. Can confirm from experience, Urge to Feed is a really good spell to have. And then Hideous End, was in the last vampire deck. Yeah, it was just Doomblade with life loss, fine. Dead Reckoning, so 1 color and 2 black. You may put target creature card from your graveyard on top of your library, and if you do, Dead Reckoning deals damage equal to that card's power to target creature. So this is kind of interesting. It's it's not as good as Raise Dead, because it's not going straight back into your hand, and it's at sorcery speed, so you're gonna have to wait until next turn to get it. And obviously it's 3 mana, but the fact that it can also serve as a kind of like a removal spell as well is okay. The vampires in Zendikar are pretty small, so this would normally be doing sort of about 2-3 damage, but I think that's okay to get a creature back and also potentially kill an opponent's creature. I guess it's okay. Single Brink of Disaster, 2 and 2 black for an aura that goes on a land or a creature. When enchanted permanent becomes tapped, destroy it. Sure. I've always think this is too expensive and too dirtly. I mean, at the end of the day, you put this on an opponent's creature, and they're just like, well, all right, I won't attack with it, but I'll still leave it to block, and it can still do that. Like, I'd rather just kill it, all the same, you could put this on a land, and it's like a very dirtly form of land destruction. I just think it's just not very good. Single Consume Spirit. It's just X spell that deals X damage to a creature or player, and you gain X life. You only spend black mana on X, which is fine. We're in a mono black deck. This is okay. Single Diabolic Tutor to find whatever card you need from the deck, put it into hand for 4 mana. Yep, that's a good effect. And Rise from the Grave, 4 and a black to get a creature card in a graveyard back into the battlefield under your control. It is a black zombie in addition to its other colours and types. All perfectly fine cards from M10. And then 2 Maya's Toll, single black. Target player reveals a number of cards from their hand equal to the number of swamps you control. You choose one of them, they discard that card. This being a single black is actually okay. Because you could, if you wanted, you could just cast this turn 1 and they reveal just one card, and you're still making them discard one card, which is still okay. Yeah, I guess it's fine, 2 of them. But, why are we getting so much focus on like these discard? Why do we not have more vampires, And then 2 Piranha Marsh, ends the battlefield tapped when it comes in, target player loses a life, fine. And 16 swamps. So, yeah. So, it's so similar to Rise of the Vampires, isn't it? Just with is it? I don't think it's worse rares actually. Anna 1 is pretty good, and the Butcher is pretty good. So yeah, it's much for muchness really. So what could have been? Quag Vampires is basically the only non-rare vampire from Worldwake that's not in this deck, and it definitely should have been in here instead of Zombie Goliath. I have no idea why Zombie Goliath is in here. So 1 black mana, has Swamp Walk, and it has multi-kicker. 1 in the black, it gets +1/+1 counter on it for every time it's kicked. So yeah, 3 mana, it's a 2/2 Swamp Walk, which is fine. Alternate rare maybe. Instead of Butcher and Malakir, Calastria Highborn. So 2 black for a 2/2. Whenever Calastria Highborn or another vampire you control dies, you can pay 1 black. And if you do, target player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So yep, this is fine. When your vampires are dying, you can turn them into like life drain spells, which is fine. Basilisk Collar as well could have been alternate rare. Just super cheap equipment. And it gives the equipped creature death touch and lifelink. So all your other vampires can cosplay as Vampire Nighthawk, I suppose. But in summary, it's just more mono black vampires, which is fine. But on the other hand, it's like, well, we've seen this before. It's not that interesting. Zendikar as a whole really has a real Alara feel to it. It's just we're seeing the same sort of decks again. I remember being really, when these came out, I was so tepid about these decks. Just oh, it's another black vampire deck, but I already bought 2 of the other one. There's nothing new here to tempt me to buy it. So I really don't know why they did that. This is fine. I don't think it's as good as the Zendikar one because firstly that had 2 Vampire Nighthawks. Malakir Blood Witch is a really strong rare. The Blood Tribute in that was really strong as well. This is okay. The new vampire cards in Worldwake are okay. Urge to Feed is really good. But yeah, it's fine. It's just basically more of the same, I suppose. But yeah, it's basically okay. I still think it's probably still the best of the Worldwake pre-constructed decks, but spoilers, they're not great. They're really not great, and Anyway, you'll find out. You should still watch them, definitely. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this deck after seeing it? Any thoughts, stories, comments, opinions about it? Or do you think it looks very samey? Would you have been interested in getting this deck if you had bought Rise of the Vampires from Zendikar, or would you have bought this anyway and kind of mashed them together and still had a mono black vampire deck? I don't know. I say, stick a comment below if you've got anything like that to say. Always like reading people's comments, but I'll be back next time. I'm going to look at another Worldwake intro pack. But until then, thanks for watching and listening. Have a great day.